Today we're looking at a Mazda 3, and quite possibly this is the last review of this Mazda 3 that you'll ever see as a new car.
This car is ancient. Well, not ancient, but it came out in 2014, so in car terms it's already had its midlife crisis now.
Which means it's had a facelift. In fact, in the spirit of the society in which we live today, when people in their 20s are panicking about looking old and getting Botox, the 3 here had its work done in 2016 when it was only a couple of years old.
Which is really weird. Like having a chef run to the table and squirt a load of tomato ketchup on the bolognese that you've just had put down in front of you.
Well, that's the cynical view. The other view is that it's more like a good bit of Parmesan cheese. As in, it's a worthwhile improvement that you should be grateful for. Especially given that the other stuff on the table looks so delicious.
The other stuff being your archetypal family hatchbacks. All of them classics, or very highly regarded at least.
You've got your pepperoni pizza, your carbonara, your lasagna, and man, I can't think of any more Italian food. We'll call this one the hot dog.
And isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
The family hatchback class might be a bit old hat now, but when you get back into one after driving a crossover for a bit, or an SUV, you do remember what it is that you liked about them in the first place.
You see, the old hat family hatchback can be engineered to be actually enjoyable to drive, because it's not stifled by any requirement to be tall and bouncy.
And this is one of the best of them in the pure driving sense. It was quite well known that the Mazda 3 before this one shared a platform with the Ford Focus, and when people said that, it was sort of a shorthand way of saying that it was really good to drive, really good dynamically. Well, this one isn't. It's on a totally different chassis that nobody really mentions, but it still retains some of the feel of the old Mazda 3. It's got that lovely combination of nice steering feel, good body control and suppleness, evocative of the Ford Focus. Feels sophisticated and, dare I say it, a hint of the Mazda MX-5 about it. MX-5's rear-wheel drive and all that, obviously.
Basically, you'll never get a crossover with the sort of dynamic involvement that this gives you. Physics, innit? Price you pay, of course, is space, or lack of it.
In a way, you're never going to get the generous headroom of a crossover in a family hatchback. To be fair, it's not like it's bad, there's enough room everywhere, the driving position's great, but some might feel that they want a little bit more seat adjustment, a little bit more wheel adjustment, and generally just a feeling that there's a bit more air around them somehow. But as these things go, this one does feel pretty spacious in the back.
Same for the storage basics, it's all okay, but you do feel like you want a little bit more. Like, the boot is a decent size and a usefully oblong shape, and when you push the split folding bench down, it's all flat, which is good. But there's no adjustable boot floor and the lip is quite high, so you'll be tipping big things over it. And there's details like this. You open this little storage flap here and you're confronted with bare metal and welding joints. Details, see? Cabin's the same, storage is okay. The glove box is actually quite big and the door pockets hold big bottles. But there's nothing to brag about if you're the sort of person that likes to brag about storage spaces.
What you're looking at from the driver's seat is very similar, because what the Mazda 3 has in chassis sparkle, it definitely lacks in cabin sparkle. Nothing offensive here, but nothing really noteworthy either. Having said that, the quality is noteworthy, because I'm going to note it now, in that the whole thing feels solid. It just feels almost like it's a class down, just that little bit too compact, if you compare it to a Golf or something else that you might try instead of one of these.
And the screen's looking increasingly tiny against the competition.
And the interface isn't that kind either. Bit vexing. And that's despite the fact that this is a touchscreen and it has one of those rotary dial things. You've got both ways of controlling it. It's kind of like having a mobile phone and then deciding to use a cup and string instead.
Oh, and I almost forgot, there is a fastback version of this if you want a slightly bigger boot but a lot less practicality, because it's just a 4-door, it's no hatchback. And so, consumery stuff. Engines first, there are 4 of them, a couple of diesels called Skyactiv D, diesel presumably, and a couple of petrols called Skyactiv G, obviously. Relatively, they all look very efficient. Even the more powerful petrol hovers close to a 50 miles per gallon average. Now obviously it's getting harder and harder to recommend diesel in anything these days. But if you're still lured in by the high numbers and the tax breaks, then these 2 diesels are among the smoothest and quietest that you can get in any family hatchback anywhere. They're really good.
So this one's the more powerful of the diesels and it's proper good, right? Feels much quicker than it actually is on paper. It's got so much torque. I mean, it's dead quiet. Usually from beyond about 3,000 RPM, a diesel is starting to sound like a tractor. This one, listen, dropping a third, it's dead quiet. It's really good.
You know, this is genuinely fun to drive. The steering has a really lovely feel to it, really natural, and the gearbox is tighter than Jim Royal.
Oh, lovely. Bottle of Moet. There you go, Dave. Hide that till the poker's gone.
A couple of clever systems that help it point in the right direction at all times as well, including one that manages to torque across the front axle to help with front end grip, which basically makes it turn in quicker.
Now on to the I'm driving around a corner section. You can always understand what's going on underneath you. When it's screeching like that, it doesn't feel like anything silly is going to happen. There's always this sense that nothing's going to ping, go wrong, you're not going to get loads of understeer or whatever. It just kind of stays the course really nicely. That's what makes something fun to drive. Unless you're a proper hand and you like things to go all mad. But I'm not. It's brilliant that you know.
And so to the price, which at the starting point at least is as monotonously average as you would expect it to be. It's right in the middle of these not very carefully chosen rivals. It's only Fiat that's really blazing a trail for the proper cheap family hatchback at the moment, as you can see. Similarly, the specification, there are names, and those names determine how much stuff you get. Pretty standard. And what sort of stuff you want will determine what sort of price you pay. It's all much of a muchness.
Similarly, the car in general. See, it drives well. Really well, actually. It's like it's wasted in a car that's otherwise energy-sappingly mundane in its ordinariness. Nothing about this car, inside or out, really stands out in any way, shape or form. To go back to the food references from before, right, this is basically your microwave lasagna. Perfectly okay, does the job, but in that context, the way this drives, and especially the steering feel and the gearbox and that, kind of like pulling that lasagna out of the microwave and then paying Gordon Ramsay to come and sprinkle some rocket on the top of it.
I know it's weird criticizing a car for having a good quality. It's really weird. Guess I'm just frustrated. You drive this car and you should love it with its good engines, quiet diesels, and the way the steering feels and the way the gearbox feels, and its sensible pricing and its overall sense of solidity and its 5-star Euro NCAP rating and its adequate space and all that stuff. But I just found it too hard to overcome its almost complete personality deficit. Now that stuff might not bother you, and if it doesn't, great. Fill your boots, this is a very good car. Anyway, thanks for watching. There's much more on this and other hatchbacks at HonestJohn.co.uk. Love you, bye!